Mendel studied these plants. He looked at different crosses. And the first cross, in other words, cross means he's breeding them, is called a P generation cross. He self-fertilized the plant. So in other words, he took the sperm from the plant and fertilized the egg from the same plant. And so he's crossing these two. And the only possible outcome is this. You're only going to have this if you just start with these. So that's the P generation first cross. Then he took a tall plant and crossed it with a short plant. So they have different traits. So it's a hybrid cross. And it's called an F1 cross. It's a filial son. F1 cross is like the hybrid cross. So he crossed, he mated, bred these. So crossed the big tall plant with the short plant. And this produces the F1 generation. When he did this, he found out all of the offspring from this cross were tall, which was not what he expected. He thought maybe they'd be medium sized. And he took those offspring and crossed them. And he got something interesting. There's some short plants that showed up after the cross. So F2 cross So if you think about going back to the F1 cross, if you're crossing this times this, the only possible offspring are going to be big T, because let's say this is the mother, and this is the father. You have to get one from each. So this one only has big T to give, so that's what you have. This one only has little t, so that's what you have. So the offspring are going to be big T, little t. Now, Mendel then took these offspring and crossed them in what's called F2 cross. And something interesting happened. So from this cross, so he crossed this one. He crossed these times itself. So it's this. He found out 3 out of 4 of them were tall. I wonder why is that? Something is being passed on in the plant from parent to offspring that didn't show up before. Because the previous cross, they were all tall. But all of a sudden now, 25% are short. So there's something, some trait, some characteristic for being short that's being passed on. It doesn't show up till later. After he studied these plants, he came up with some laws. And the first law, one of Mendel's laws, the first one, is called the law of complete dominance. So this means that there are 2 versions of genes. Those are called the alleles. And one of them is dominant over another. In other words, one's going to take control over the other one. One of them is going to show up. And in this case, it's the tall gene. One of them is going to be kind of hidden. Might not show up till another generation. Right? So the dominant allele, dominant gene, is demonstrated by using an uppercase letter. The non-dominant gene, which we call recessive, is lowercase. So in complete dominance, one allele is completely dominant over another for the same trait. So if we're looking at the trait is that characteristic that's passed on. So height. For height of the pea plants, you have tall and short. You have those are the 2 alleles. Big T, little t. Big T is completely dominant over little t. So if a plant has big T, even if it just has one of them, it's going to be tall because that's dominant. So a tall plant, these are tall plants, these 2. The only way it will be short if it has 2 recessive alleles, which are the lowercase t's. So this plant will be short, but it will not be short if there were a big T here. It doesn't have a big T, so it's short. So dominant alleles are the ones that kind of take over. They control. They're the ones in charge. They kind of repress the other alleles. The recessive alleles are non-dominant. They're the ones that don't show up. All right, and they're only going to be seen when there's two of those recessive alleles. So we think back to those words, homozygote, heterozygote. This is heterozygote right here. It has one of each. Hetero means different. In complete dominance, the heterozygote is going to show the dominant trait. So this is going to be tall. This is homozygous. It's a homozygote, so we call it homozygous. This is homozygous. Remember, homo, same. This is homozygous because these are the same, both big T. This is homozygous because they're the same, both little t.